Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. There's a sci-fi movie review and I'll be having a look at Cyborg 2. So obviously the sequel to the original Cyborg film, that one starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, as a point of reference, this film is actually an official sequel and it does actually reference the first film in this movie. However, it has very little to do with the original film. Now, if you've seen the original film, that one is really kind of a post-nuclear sort of sci-fi film, really with very little to do with the actual cyborgs themselves. It was more of a kind of like a, a post-nuke film really. And the kind of world is completely destroyed in that movie. In this one, we're told that there is a kind of like a civilized world and it's really run by two sort of major corporations, and they're kind of ultimately the sort of the big powers in the world. And there's a lot of sort of technology, and cyborgs are built from everything from soldiers to prostitutes. So it's a little bit confusing where this actually falls in regards to sort of timeline and things like that. We're guessing at the end of the first film, I suppose they've kind of rebuilt the world and it's kind of made it into this more of a kind of cyberpunk type world, but I don't know, it's not really sort of mentioned with any sort of great detail. Anyway, this film is actually one of the first roles for Angelina Jolie, and she was actually 17 when she was making this movie. And she's actually the sort of titular cyborg. And the story it's actually subtitled Glass Shadow, and she's a cyborg who is produced in a kind of like espionage plot to sort of implant her with a kind of a liquid called Glass Shadow, which is essentially a liquid explosive. And the idea is from this sort of corporation, this American corporation, that she's going to kind of pose as a kind of American businesswoman, go into the sort of Japanese rivals and basically blow it up with this sort of explosive in her called Glass Shadow. However, she teams up with a kind of a human trainer and ultimately sort of tries to escape the clutches of the kind of the American corporation and pretty much goes on the run. And they sort of send sort of teams of people after her, including Billy Drago as a kind of bounty hunter who's probably my favourite character in the film. He does a wonderfully psychotic performance. So this film obviously kind of made within the 90s, and as I say, it's very interesting to sort of see Jolie in kind of one of her earliest roles. Now, when this film actually came out, I actually remember seeing an interview with the main guy, probably can't pronounce his name correctly, Elias Koteas or something like that. And he was, I think, 33 when this was made, and there is a sex scene in there, and I remember the actual presenter of this sort of show in the UK sort of asking him, about how it was having to do a sex scene with a 17-year-old girl. Of course, by that point at the time, Jolie was an unknown, and he was like saying, "Oh, she was very professional," and blah blah. Anyway, I kind of digress. This film is probably a little bit more intelligent than the first one, so there's a lot more in regards to what's sort of going on in the world. As I say, it's pretty much a corporate espionage film with a kind of obviously a sci-fi sort of cyberpunk twist. It is a bit cheesy, I have to say. Some of the sort of dialogue is quite, it's quite sort of cringeworthy. You've got Jack Palance here as a kind of, I guess, kind of mentor almost, who sort of communicates with the sort of two heroes via a kind of weird sort of TV messages and things like that. So we pretty much just see like an invert of his mouth or his eyes and stuff like that. It's kind of a bit of a weird role. The actual fight scenes, they're pretty good, I have to say. I mean, they kind of have this 90s cheese in it. And there's sort of gun battles where you've got, certainly towards the end of the film, where you've got one guy shooting, tons of, sort of disposable bad guys and seemingly is unharmed. But there's some decent sort of hand-to-hand fight scenes with Jolie sort of versus these sort of kind of corporate goons and what have you. And that looks pretty decent. It's well shot. Like I said, I mean, this is very kind of much a 90s low budget sci-fi film, so it does have the kind of cheesiness that sort of goes with that. But overall, I do think it's a reasonable sci-fi film, and it maybe is a little bit too cheesy for some people. Billy Drago is worth the price of admission, and I absolutely love his character here because he is so just off the wall, batshit crazy. I think he's a really great character and actually has some quite amusing lines. And you're actually kind of interested to learn a little bit more about, I think, about his kind of backstory, and actually he seems to have a bit of a history with Jack Palance's character as well. It's worth checking out obviously if you're an Angelina Jolie fan. As I said, there is actually a sex scene in it, so if you want to see a bit of semi-naked Angelina Jolie in her younger days, you might want to check it out. It's nothing too gratuitous. But overall, it's a reasonable good film. I would give it a 6 out of 10. What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.